If you, in all of your self-righteous indignation and delusions of superiority, feel like the least you deserve is to be treated and spoken to with respect and decency, then that is the absolute least you can show up with wherever you show up and irrespective of to whom you're speaking. If everyone who approaches you has to come correct, everyone you approach has to be approached correctly. Doesn't matter if you don't like them. Doesn't matter what you think or feel about them.
Passion public service announcement. Passionate.
Let me tell you something. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, passion, no last necessary, your get you right guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I've observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered to A, expand your thinking, and B, aid you in becoming a better version of yourself for yourself and for others. This is a safe space. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I'll never rob you of your right to feel what you feel. The same way I will not sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so that you can operate as your highest and best self. If you're new here, affirmations are our first order of business so we can intentionally raise the vibration and start on one accord, okay? So let's get on the same frequency. If you are ready, go ahead and take a deep breath. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmations. I am aware of myself. I am in control of myself. I know that I am responsible for my behavior. I am accountable for my actions. I move with intention. I operate with the grace I expect. I speak with the respect I require. I present what I want to see reflected back to me. It is well. Well is all. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Tell me a story.
All right, let's get straight to story time. So I told you before, a few years back, I worked in the garage department. Now, what happens every year is that people pay for spaces in the garage, but often don't park there because they find street parking closer. No one wants to be on the street when the snow comes, though. So all those parking spaces that always seem to be unoccupied immediately vanish. So if you're in New York City, you probably remember that big snowstorm in, I think it was either late 2018 or early 2019, where the whole city basically turned into one big parking lot and people were sitting in traffic for hours upon hours. You have people that can't drive from Brooklyn to White Plains without getting antsy. So to be sitting in standstill traffic for 12 hours is enough to drive the sane to the brink of criminality. I leave room for that, okay? After you've been sitting, steaming, boiling, one more thing, no matter how slight, is simply too much. I've been there. Okay. The garage is at capacity, and it's now my responsibility to advise all these tired, disgruntled, incensed, hungry people who pay their monthly maintenance and expect to come home to an available parking space. Sorry, friend, there's no room at the inn. Now, there were some people who didn't necessarily respond kindly, but by comparison to how they could have behaved, I'll take it. Some closed the window in my face while I was still talking, and they just immediately backed up. Rude, but some mumbled, but they left in peace. There's always one who does something unforgettable. So this one pulls into the driveway, and I start walking towards her so she doesn't waste her time pulling all the way up. I tell her what she already knows. She blacks on me. Now, I gave her a little grace because, like I said, I can empathize with how she feels. But when she started getting too crazy with it, I pulled the plug and I reminded her that I'm doing my job, which I was actually doing way more than what was required, but that's not the point. And that I'm not the source of her anger. And sis looked me straight in my eye and said, I know, but I need someone to take it out on. So it's not my fault. It's way above and beyond my control. I'm doing everything I can to provide you what little I can in an effort to offer some kind of pleasantry or peace or act of kindness. And in turn, because you mad at the weatherman, you mad at DOT, you mad at sanitation, you mad at the mayor, you mad at the people with whom you signed this agreement that you probably didn't read, because I told y'all before, people actively sign, don't read anything, then get upset when they're held accountable to the terms of said agreement, since you mad at all these people, none of whom are me, you feel like I should suffer the barrage of vitriol. And somebody right now is shrugging their shoulders and saying, hey, it be like that sometimes. And they're smirking. And it's amusing because they're not on the receiving end of it. The issue isn't even how she conducted herself. The issue is that people who behave like that feel entitled to their outburst, then A, expect to be treated respectfully and courteously the next time they come around, as though the person they mishandled magically forgot how abusive they were, and or B, they expect to be handled with respect and dignity when they're on the receiving end. It nagasa. I mean, it could, but it rarely and barely does. We've seen different reels going around, right, where people have gotten handled because they wanted to talk crazy to someone over the phone. I deal with these exhausting types regularly who really just want their frustration to be acknowledged with compassion and want a resolution that'll prevent them from acting like that. Write this down, because this is your first passion point. The resolution to any and every situation that will keep you from being disrespectful and insolent is self-control. I just had a conversation with someone recently who was adamant that there are occasions where people force you to get beside yourself. Agree or disagree, the only time where someone is pushing you and you're not in control is a situation of self-defense. That is the one time where you may have to act out of sorts and you have no other choice. But in a situation such as our example, the choice was present. And sis drove the clown car down the lowest road she could find. Now, someone is saying, Passion, that wasn't a very high vibrational statement. And that's true. And from my perspective, so was my statement. And that's what you have to keep in mind. When you go someplace, when you call someplace, and matter of fact, let's deal with the callers first, okay? Because people get particularly reckless on the phone. When you call someplace and you choose to get live with the person on the phone, more times than not, you're doing it because you believe they can't or won't respond in kind for fear of losing their job. That's abusive. I know there's only so much you can do, but I also know there's only so much you can say without putting yourself in jeopardy. So let me act as crazy as I feel to, dare you to match my energy, and then cry to the next person in the chain of command about how awful you were to me. Okay, first of all, before I even deal with the tantrum throwers, let me talk to my people that have to deal with the onslaught, okay? The easiest way to match their energy without matching it at all is to let them yell and scream at themselves. Put the call on mute and turn the volume all the way down. This way you're still hearing them on the off chance they're saying something pertinent. But all the extra expletive hurling and name calling and accusations of negligence and disregard, the caller is only one that wants to hear that, so let them. Let them wear themselves out like a toddler throwing a tantrum. And when they start screaming, hello, hello, because they finally realize they're sparring with themselves, calmly re-enter the conversation and advise them that you're listening, but they didn't give you an opportunity to respond. Now, for those of you carrying on like banshees, cursing out and screaming at the person at the bottom of the totem pole who probably has the least amount of power to affect change, first of all, who are you talking to? The energy you're giving 9 times out of 10 is not actually for them. They're the bearer of the scroll, but not the author of the script. More importantly, the people that energy is for, given the opportunity to talk to them the same way, too many of you get real meek, real meager, real humble, real passive. Where's all that rah-rah? Where's that case of hypnitis you were suffering from? Where are all the expletives and colorful words? All of a sudden, you are articulate. You're even keeled, soft-spoken. There are no racial epithets, no denigrating language. And to ice the cake, half of you turn into victims and come with Oscar-worthy performances detailing how you were wronged by the big bad representative you just spoke to who was so mean and monstrous to you. You know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is unacceptable for people to talk to you crazy. When you go to work and deal with people who are arrogant, obnoxious, insufferable idiots, you don't care about their traumas, their psychoses, their bad day, or their bad experience with your job. Under no circumstance will you tolerate being spoken to in any manner that you deem unacceptable, yet the very way you want to show up and speak to people in an effort to get the results you want, whether they're reasonable or not. whether they're doable or not, whether you deserve that grace and courtesy you feel entitled to or not. This is how you show up regularly. Make it make sense. I'm saying, Passion, sometimes people deserve it. And sometimes people is you. Nah, I'm saying sometimes people just take you there. False. Because you can opt out. You can hang up and call back. You can ask to speak to a supervisor. You can walk away and not say another word. In each of those instances, you're literally leaving them where they are. So how are they taking you where you don't want to go? Why not tell the truth and say, I just felt like acting that way? I felt like I had something to prove. Because while you can argue that you don't feel that way, why are you trying to establish dominance if you're not worried about whether the other person acknowledges your dominance or presence or power or whatever it is you're trying to establish? If you know who you are and that's what matters, why are you pressed to make sure the next person sees you in that way? Also, if you are who you believe yourself to be, why doesn't that translate without aggression? Like, shouldn't your eminence be notable and discernible by your aura and how you carry yourself? In that position, people talk to me crazy whenever they felt like it. The goal was to in some way check me or make sure I respected their, existence? Because at the point you're talking crazy, you're talking to yourself. I'm not going back and forth with you. So whatever it is you're trying to establish, you've missed the mark. And for the person who's more prone to violence, newsflash, that's still rooted in the fact that you want to be respected, honored, or revered in a way that you won't be. And so the only way for you to establish dominance is to use brute force. You may be stronger, but if you were stupid before you started throwing blows, you're now stupid and violent. And 60 Minutes in the psychology class lets us know that there's an underlying fear of inferiority present and or resentment for how someone uninvolved in this moment handled you. So you'll do anything to ensure that no one else sees the inferiority. Meanwhile, watchers, thinkers, and analyzers already do. So you graduated from stupid to violent to piteous in an effort to feel empowered, but no one looking sees you as powerful. And if you didn't do it for who's looking and you only did it for how it made you feel about yourself, why are your own words so ineffective in your own life that you can't tell yourself of your greatness and believe it? You have to act it out to prove it. That means you're powerless and confused, which is why you feel powerless, because you're confused. Also, if your words are useless and powerless to you, why would you expect them to hold weight with someone else? Like what? Stop going to people's jobs in person, on the phone, virtually. Stop coming to people's workspaces and treating them in ways you would never accept. Stop expecting them to be tolerant of abuse and vitriol and degradation because you're frustrated and feel like someone should feel the wrath. And since they're standing there, it's going to have to be them. You sound like your abusive parents who were frustrated with not being able to afford XYZ expenses and took it out on you because you asked a simple question. You sound like that patient in the hospital who's angry because their poor decision-making and habits landed them there, but now that they're not free to move around making more bad decisions, they're snappy and rude anytime someone asks them something. You sound like the people you can't stand. You sound like the people you wish the worst things on, and you sound like them because whether you choose to see it or not, you are them, and you'll continue to be them until you choose to do and be different. Frustration is a real thing, and even the most high vibrational beings have moments where emotions run high. But when your emotions run high all the time, when you act first and think after, you're lacking self-control. To say you don't know why you respond how you do, but not seek the help of someone who can advise you on how not to respond that way. To say you don't mean to have these explosive reactions, but never pause before responding or reacting, never take a beat to think first, then intentionally respond, that looks more like plausible deniability than an undiagnosed, uncontrollable impulse that neither modern nor ancient medicine have seen or can treat. Like, cut it out. If you in all of your self-righteous indignation and delusions of superiority feel like the least you deserve is to be treated and spoken to with respect and decency, then that is the absolute least you can show up with, wherever you show up, and irrespective of to whom you're speaking. If everyone who approaches you has to come correct, everyone you approach has to be approached correctly. Doesn't matter if you don't like them. Doesn't matter what you think or feel about them. And if the karma concept is lost on you and you think the golden rule is a sham, here's the lower vibrational logic. If I led with respect and you showed up differently, I'm now justified to get out of pocket. It's an argument, not a winning argument if the goal is to be better and vibrate higher. Energetically, you're still attracting confusion, friction, and negativity to yourself. But it is an argument you can use. They started it. And they may have. But there are multiple ways of finishing it, and coming down to their level should be the least and the last on the list. Last thing. If you did get crazy with someone and in the midst of that you realized you were wrong, there is honor in stopping in your tracks and correcting yourself. I definitely dealt with a caller recently who started off even, then continuously escalated. And when I asked her why she was yelling at me, she immediately went into her therapy toolkit and was like, I'm yelling because I'm frustrated with the situation, but you're not the cause of it. And you're just trying to help. And I'm taking my anger out on you, which is wrong. And I shouldn't be doing that. And I apologize. Now, it would have been funny as hell if I wasn't irritated by her coming at me sideways. I probably would have been more receptive to her apology as well. But by the time she came in off the ledge, I just wanted her to come up off my phone. Keep that in mind as well. It's fragile and egocentric to not want to apologize if it's not going to be warmly and softly accepted. An apology is acknowledgement of the wrongdoing, not an automatic pardon. If you're apologizing because you're expecting to hear apology accepted, you're forgiven, or it's okay, your intentions are questionable, and therefore, so is your apology. But that, too, is a whole other episode. So put a bookmark right here and put some comments below. Give me some feedback. Give me some feedback. If you're offended by the episode, that's okay. Truth is often confrontational and confounding. We're not here to work around it. We're here to work through it, okay? Send your listener letters to greetings@whatonewomandoes.com. Share this with your friends. Discuss. Conversation heals and saves lives. Make sure you give this a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the network. Make sure you check out the other available content on the channel. If you'd like to be a financial contributor, donations are welcome, appreciated, and can be made via Linktree, PayPal, Zelle, or Podbean. Every little bit helps. The Lord loves a cheerful giver, and I did a whole documentary on where your building fund offering goes, okay? It all goes back into the pod. Amen, saints? Amen. You get you right. Guru is signing off. Y'all go forth. Be great, be filled with bliss, be armed and empowered with knowledge. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Everything you see is a reflection of you, so reflect greatness if that's what you want to see. In all things, be passionate. See you later.